long-standing poetry group here, Poetry 3. How many years, Star?
23.
23 years. So, they will read in this order, Brock, Shanan, Ben, and Star. However, I'm going to introduce them in a different order. And so, where's Ben? Ben! Hey, Ben.
Hello.
Okay, Ben is the person I've known the least. He's been newer here, so the other three I've known for 20 years. Ben Gunsberg is a Midwesterner who recently fell in love with a mountain.
Yeah.
He earned an MFA in creative writing from the University of Alabama and a PhD in English and education from the University of Michigan. His poems find homes in literary magazines such as the South Carolina Review, the Painted Bride Quarterly, I like the name of that one, and Permafrost. His poetry chapbook, Rhapsodies with Portraits, is published by Finishing Line Press. In his spare time, he wishes he had more spare time. In his dreams, he can be found shimmering with Star, skiing with Shanan, and playing rhythm guitar for Brock. And so then, easy segue into Brock. Brock's latest creative adventure is a band he's formed with Ben and Mitch and Charles, otherwise I guess known as C-Bone.
Yeah, C-Bone.
Oh, and he's also the band leader, I should add that.
As far as Brock's concerned.
My fantasy.
So they have yet to play a gig together or even get a song completely worked out because they've been concentrating on coming up with cool names, sure to attract groupies. So far the suggestions include the Blues Manglers and C-Bone and the Drones. And Star, well, Star's personal groupie is her Mitch, the one in Brock's band with the Johnny Winter hair. Shanan loves skiing, hiking, and taking close-up photographs of wildflowers. She surrounds herself with the essence of animals. One of her favorite possessions is a bowl-chewed stick that Brock of C-Bone and the Drones gave to her. So we'll hear from Brock first of all.
Thanks, Marina. We seldom have such a well-coordinated introduction. And I have to add that Charles' name for the band is Mud Puddle. Or maybe Mud Puddles, plural, I don't know.
I think just one of them.
Just Mud Puddle. And Charles plays upright bass, a great addition to any group, I think. I always try to make some kind of connection between the various poems I'm going to read. I think the only connection today is the variety of inspirations, where they came from. So I'll say a little about each of the inspirations here. Trying to see if the appropriate person is in the audience. I don't see. No, good. Well, so this first one is about. Well, it was inspired by one of Star's poetry walkabouts. If you don't know, Star, as poet laureate of Logan, has been leading people on little journeys throughout Logan, so we learn a lot about the city as well as getting some inspiration for poems. And we started, I guess, at Cafe Ibis. We ended up at Garth Garden, which is a cool little place. And this occurred. It's called Ogre. Bill stuffs into his vast mouth the rose I was about to smell, taking the color I was struggling to name, unique in the garden, Persimmon, Carl, salmon. Words don't do justice to the rose, its color and smell, and to humans who assume every petal awaits their tongue. This next one comes from a lifelong interest in ticks. Little crawly guys, not, facial things or whatever. As you probably know, ticks like hang out on bushes or grass or something for years, just waiting for somebody to come along. And I discovered that waiting is called questing. So this poem is called Tick Questing, and it's from the point of view of a tick. I wait for years, sensory receptor, athletic as a flake of bark. Wait for blood to pass, wait for warmth, smell, rustling. Without blood, I will not grow, mate, procreate. I will die wizened and desiccated above an abandoned path. Immobile since time began, suddenly I must be agile and quick. Land, locate, latch, suck. I drop at just the right instant for whipping tail, shivering skin, swatting hand dislodge me. This one is shows the value of a poetry group because I was playing around with the idea of a stream that empties down into a bay that's affected by tide. So sometimes the stream ends here, and sometimes it ends 200 feet lower down. So it's got this big stretch where it doesn't really have banks, and it has to kind of make a new channel for itself every 6 hours, or 12 hours, I guess. And I was playing around with that and brought a draft to the group, and Star said something like that the title needed to be some kind of human quality, which immediately connected with the poem and became known as Free Will. So, rainwater the granite won't absorb, tarries in moss, seeps and trickles, flows miles over roots, rot, muck, mixes with draining seawater, find its way again to the bay. On what path will it nip the heels of retreating sea? Will it shirk yesterday's channel for softer sand to the north or boulders to the south? Each tide the stream reinvents itself, left or right of the rock, over or under the seaweed, choosing its own bed. This one is it has 1993 on the file, so I've been working on it for at least 23 years, and partly because I can never get the end right. And it requires, there's one reference in here that I thought was universal and timeless because it's about what may well be the greatest athletic feat ever, at least in my lifetime. Bob Beamon in the 1968 Olympics broke the world record in the long jump by almost 2 feet. And if you know anything about track records, they tend to be broken by an inch or sometimes millimeters. So almost 2 feet is just astonishing. So he's mentioned in here. And this is called Victory Dance. And it's one of the poems that I wrote kind of for myself to change the way I look at things, because I'm not very good at celebrating good things like book publications or whatever. It's always, oh yeah, well, I'm on to the next thing. So I wanted to have something that would kind of force me to celebrate at the moment. And it's actually had that effect, even though I don't think I've ever read it before out loud, but friends and I talk about, oh, it's time to victory dance. So this is what it is. Victory dance. I want to dance the victory dance, do the go-go, the fling and the jig. Show the home folks how a winner walks when he's healthy and happy and big. I want to clench my hand in a fist, pull it back quick, quick like a train. Yabba-dabba-doo like I'm speaking in tongues, yell yeah till they think I'm insane. I want to whoop like a celluloid engine, throw my hands up wild in the air. Want to crow real cocky like the big bantam stud strutting pretty at the KFC fair. I want to feel what Beeman felt when he sailed through the Mexican air. Know the cooling cascade of endorphins as the champagne shampoos my hair. I want to prance the victory prance. Will the judges ever call my name? I want to feel the way winners feel, delirious shudders of fame. I think what took me 23 years was coming up with a positive end, because I always wanted to turn that negative. Victory dance. Okay, and this is the last one. This is an homage to off-road vehicles, and it's spoken through the three forest creatures. The first of which is a stoat, and a stoat is a kind of weasel, the kind that turns into an ermine during the winter, and they're noted for their ability to catch and kill and eat rabbits that are like 5 times their size. So I guess they're pretty nasty little critters. And this turns on your knowing what an owl stereotypically says. So keep that in mind. Can't track my lunch, sours the stoat, clawing his snout. Caca breath, hisses the snake, retracting his tongue. What? Asked the owl, what?
As many of you know, I've been working on a series of poems about my brother's life and death. My little brother, Dylan Thomas, drank himself to death at age 24, almost 3 years ago. And so many of these poems that I've been working on that are very difficult, but they have his fingerprints, his life in them. This first one is called pica, spelled P-I-C-A, and the definition of pica is a tendency or craving to eat substances other than normal food, and it occurs during childhood or pregnancy or as a symptom of a disease. Pica. In the story, the mother goat gives her 7 kids severe instructions. Do not open the door to anyone. Wolf watches from evergreens till mother recedes to a smudge at the end of the street. Then he drapes his toothed head in red kerchief, just like the mother's, wraps his claws on the door. Kids, this is your mother, come back from the market. I'm not a stranger, open the door. His voice almost mother, but not. The kids on their near-human legs teeter, but intensely they listen. The voice is too gruff. They are not deceived. Go away, wolf, you're not our mother, in unison they cry. So the wolf devoured chalk to make his voice soft. I too ate the chalk, felt the dusty, clean snap, honey grit between my teeth. I swallowed hard, and to the night blue room, I whispered, let me in. I'm not a stranger. My voice husky, older, gold tone of something soothing, a cello. Let me in, the wolf in kerchief and chalk voice pled. I'm not a stranger, he said, hot breath against sweet wood door. So persistent he with silk voice, lullaby voice, the oldest at last, unlatched the chain. Wolf burst in, feigned and awful, open mouths, he devoured them all, save the youngest, who was small, and in his little goat overalls hid stone still beside the ticking guts of the grandfather clock. Oh, to be small enough to dissolve, flatten again behind heavy gauze of drapery, to be hidden for hours in the damp mouse musk of a crawl space. Once my youngest brother disappeared. He was only 3 and lost for hours, asleep behind stacks of dusty books in the deep belly of the hall closet. All through the house and all through the yard we called, Dylan, where are you? Where are you, Dylan? We collapsed in heaps, sobbing. If he was gone, how could we live? The mother always cuts the kids from Wolf's gut. The youngest always lives. If I call out in sweet voice to my brother, if I bury my face against death's sweaty belly, in chalk voice plead, I'm not a stranger, let me in. I've eaten my brother's ashes, my throat, bone dust, a terrible silk. Oh, I've eaten my youngest brother, and he's still alive. I feel him thrashing. Oh, here's a knife. Someone, anyone, cut me open. Cut him from me. This is going to be very difficult. I've never done this before. I'm going to attempt to sing. This is after my brother died. We found one last known recording of him. He was a songwriter, a musician. I'm shaking. Marcy, my sister, is here. She's the only one who's heard this, I think. I think Brock has also heard it. So this is Dylan's song, a poem I'm going to call Last Known Recording, song lyrics by Dylan. Walk away, should you stay? Walk away, should you stay? Turn around to turn it off. Turn around to turn it off. Walk away. Will you stay? Walk away. Will you stay? Obituary addendum number 9. Now your name is like a bottle, its perfume poured out. Stranger. Many of my student friends have helped me with this. Brittany, Millie, Alyssa, Preston, Travis. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting anyone right now. Stranger. Through a small crack in spring he slips, drifts to my doorstep, a stranger dusted in fine powder, pollen, or ashes. If this had been an actual emergency, emergency messages would immediately follow the tone. I am perfect hostess, plastic-faced happy. Through shadowed rooms I float, dressed in the vague lace of gasoline. I gather for my guest a bouquet of glacier lilies, the first spring flowers. In my fist they burn, fierce gold candles. Into his hand I thrust them. He seizes my face, yanks me close, whispers, the bomb doll comes. Now his face is my brother's, sloppily fastened to rag doll body, stuffing leaking out, beginning to brighten now, beginning to smolder. My final poem is a longer poem. I don't really write longer poems. For my family. Thanksgiving. Like a carcass, the sad family was devoured by the filthy city. Foul fumes spewed from the dog food factory stacks. Trains wailed, grinding on their tracks. The screech and snarl of starving cats who prowled fields choked with goat thorns, cigarette butts, beer bottles, needles. The family sucked cigarettes, guzzled whiskey beneath the gold weeping willow standing stoic in its ring of trash. With greasy fingers, the family tore apart the carcass, ripped the wishbone out, each sister grasping half, laughing, drunk on the fact that wishes don't come true, not in this family. Then the nephew with kaleidoscope eyes whispered, "Say grace." And like a prophet, he placed on each tongue a tiny square of paper laced with acid. ... as it kicks in. "We are a family," they said as a statement, a question, a hilarity that made them laugh. They had never laughed so hard in all their lives. Their faces ached from smiling. Their guts ached. They laughed so hard they puked in the driveway under the willow. They laughed at how lovely the vomit, the holiday a splatter of brown and red. They smoked, and the rings of smoke hung in the air like halos, in such confusion, exquisite precision. Each long gold leaf of the weeping willow a cocoon, a packet of light. This is the only tree there ever was or ever will be, this tree thriving in a city glittering cigarette cherries, bottles, their shattered amber gleam, ecstatic howling of trains and cats. How fine the willow, changing now, each leaf a minnow in a slow black river, a waterfall of leaves shimmering in wind, and the family stood beneath the tree of their life, their eyes circled dark, shining tears as they clasped one another's hands. "We're not going to be sad anymore," they said, and this time it was not a question. Every possibility fully formed and shining. The willow, a cascade of wishing stars, a fantastic white fountain. They entered together, cleansing their bodies in the dark.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I was a little late. I was teaching before I came here. This first poem is entitled Narcissus and Narcissus. And Narcissus was a mythic figure who, as you may know, fell in love with himself and perished because he lost the will to live. Narcissus and Narcissus. This white and yellow bloom. Oh, I should also say, Narcissus is also a flower. Okay. Narcissus and Narcissus. This white and yellow bloom balanced on a slender hairless stem we named for the mythic boy who loved so much himself. See his membranous tunic open to the sun, his eye reflected in a clear spring, youth's dream haze looking back with the exploratory gaze of a painter. See the face, the fingernails. He has 6 sides, a natural geometry. Feel the damp stickiness of his surface. Hear his voice tuned by a slight tension. Take away his clothes and his naked body conveys vitality, a quavering excitement. The tapering arms, pale skin that escapes precise classification. Light shines on his sharp-cut chin. How old would you say? Certainly younger than me, with that ardent body, still in love with that ardent body. Okay, so Brock, I was sort of trying to follow in your footsteps here and come up with a theme. And so I guess my theme would be couples, Narcissus and Narcissus. And the next one is called Revision, And you'll probably be able to hear the doubling. Revision. The twins, one perfect replica of the other, slept in another room. They ruined her body, she said, lifting her shirt, folding the waistband down an inch so I could see her scars, cautious smile, plum stretch marks. The twins, one plea, one whimper, stirred. In that room, no way to tell what would repel, what would attract. I watched her untie her braid, pull her hair straight. I felt the wine rise to my head. Sit close to me, she said, and I knew this would be a poem where I moved away instead. Where I looked down at a sword of sunlight on the carpet, recalling the wail of an ambulance kill a short silence. Why, I ask myself now, because sirens lay equal claim to public and private, unlike the pang and richness of craving. I'll describe how we raised our wine to friendship, those few thoughts we shared, a touch to the arm, a kiss to the forehead. This poem is called Confessional. There is a couple hidden in this poem. I loved a woman who loved cats more than people. Pet his back, let him lick your face, she said. I did, because who knows what might have happened if I did not. That cat killed everything. I saw him pounce and release a chipmunk. Pounce, release, until the chipmunk stopped moving. Then anger slapped me and I hissed. Why write poems unless you can express your feelings openly? But the anger doesn't pass, says Hughes, until you're dead, says Platt. What to do with Minnesota? So I'm from the Midwest. And I had a problem with this poem because there are beats in this poem. And originally the title was What to Do with the Midwest, but I wanted a place that had beats. And so I changed the title to What to Do with Minnesota, because Minnesota is actually pretty big on bee farming. What to do, what to do with Minnesota? What to do with muddy fields in fall, besides study the strange loyalty of peace as they pass disguised as a necklace over all that missing corn. The last beats guarding their sweet magenta. You feel sorry for naked trees, also for yourself, because you know this isn't March when geese return again. Remember when you weren't sure what to do with muddy fields last fall, and like a beat buried yourself in memory? The strange loyalty of peace, disguised as seeds blown over earth, all past planted in the present, like new grass curtained by rain. Forget the prophecy of leaves torn apart by a hard wind. So this is my last poem. It's a poem I've read before. Star asked me to read it again, so I will. It's about my son learning to read. He was taught by a machine. What else can I say? He was ushered into this program that's, I guess, popular in Utah for early childhood, for young children. And so he played this program over and over again. And eventually it sort of leaked into my subconscious and created this poem where I actually stole some of the words from this program. So the title is Machine Overheard Teaching Boy to Read. What is in the mitten? Click on the question mark. That's right. A question mark shows what is in the mitten. Click on the skunk, down by the words, the mitten, rewritten. Go on. Practice reading this page. Click on the rewind button. Repeat. What is in the mitten? Great. Now you can play it back. Click on what? This is not the word what. Click on what. That's right. Click on in. Click on in. Click on correct. Click on mitten. This is what sentences should look like. Click here. This is not the word mouse. A mouse is in the mitten. Which of these words goes in this? Blank. That's right. A mouse is in the mitten. The sentence should say, a mouse is in the mitten. Correct. A porcupine is in the mitten. That's right. A porcupine is in the mitten. You got it. A porcupine is in the mitten. That's right. The sentence should say, what is in the mitten? The sentence should say, click here. The sentence should say, click on the pencil when you are finished. Correct. You made a great story.
Thanks everyone for coming. What a great crowd. Give yourselves a hand, you're beautiful. This is really what we like. This is why we come here to the library. Our library partners are always generous. They're always here. They provide the mic. They give us this great space. They let us bring coffee. Did you get coffee and cookies? Coffee might be gone, but get more cookies. Okay, good. I want to thank my poetry group. I want to thank my poetry group again and again. And my poems tonight are going to be bookended by a couple of tree poems. I'm doing different tree poems tonight than I'm doing for the Earth Day tree planting poem thing. I don't know which are going to be more risque. The ones tonight aren't so much, but maybe the others aren't either. I'm just a boring person with my tree poems, but I love trees, and that's why I'm bookending my poems with trees. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, my personal groupie.
Mr. Groupie to you.
Mr. Groupie, sir. I have just 7 poems to read to you tonight. The first one is Apple Tree. And I handed out packets because I always like to print out what I'm reading, just because some people like to follow along, but please don't if you don't want to. You can take them home and read them later if you'd like to. Apple Tree. Corner of the front yard where farm kids had a lot of room to play and swing, where we screamed just to scream, hanging by our fingers from thick limbs, bark scraped in need of ladders. Apple tree, then spruce, which never shaped up to be much, even after the apple died. 50 years hence, at 50 feet tall, it's still a scrubby thing, scratched bare underneath by peacocks and turkeys. That corner where we were kids and the hot sun beat down on that apple tree, long gone, and the bees with their honey bags dragging so full of pollen, salt in the green bites later. Later we fell from scarred limbs. Later I led the stubborn farm pony under the branches to scrape my sister off his back. And then, much later, Dad chopped it down, dead already. It never yielded apples good enough for sauce. Shaded by the morning mountains, that corner, not even a spruce can thrive. And this poem is written for my old farmland, Riverdale, Idaho, just beneath the Oneida Narrows. I was born and raised by the river, and as you can see on the bottom of this handout, that poem was inspired by Tina Sitton's poetry workshop that she gave right here in the library for the Community Writing Center, and it happens every Wednesday. So if you have writing that you'd like to do and you want to come and just have someone look at your writing, or if you want to come and listen to ways that you can write better, come to the Community Writing Center. I think they hold it over there in one of those rooms right by the reference desk, but they always do a great workshop. Heather Frost is going to do a novel writing workshops this month. So I hope you'll come. And also, just a note, you'll find in my poems lots of lines that are brazenly stolen from other poets. This poem has some lines from Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas, or at least it was inspired by Dylan Thomas, which is Shanan's brother's name. Now I was young and easy under the apple boughs, and awake to the farm forever fled from the childless land. Now this next 3 poems are self-indulgence. So when you're the poet laureate and you go around and you're handing out poems and you're helping people write poems and life is really exciting, sometimes you have to not say swear words because there are children and people in the audience and sometimes you have to not be kind of gloom and doom, but I like to be gloom and doom sometimes because that's poetry. And so I brought some poems to my poetry group and they really liked them because I think they were getting tired of my sappy kind of I love everyone poems, and so these are the ones where I don't say I love everyone. Self-indulgence 1. At 5 in the morning all things seem possible. The sun will surely rise, the day give its blessing. All shame will have bleached itself to forgiveness, its fragile fabric thinned, pliant. Inside your kitchen, you are the glass of filtered water, a tall drink with its impurities caught, saved in a place where they can't escape and cause havoc. You can toss them with a flourish into the blue bin, recycle their oil-derived container. When you walk out the door to enter the soft new light, it will seem as though nothing has been compromised. Suspended in that mortal thought, you get in the car and become a simple statistic, only one thin braid in the rug of human fiction. Self-indulgence, too. Bruised from the workday, office blight on your fruit-bearing neurons, mouse in the cupboard of your shoulder, and a neck like knotted scars, you wrench the open door off its magnet and walk out as it closes, already locked and loaded for tomorrow's turning. You walk to the parking lot, get in the car, and rummage in your pantry all the way home, imagining dinner, constructing a shopping list, holding the tale of never enough time in your tight, tensed hand on the steering wheel, throbbing like a broken bone. You wrapped your afternoon in the gauze of going home, but the rush hour traffic rots that image. Rats in the storm drain, roaches drop down the back of your neck, an accident ahead with lights flashing shunts you through the sludge of commuter Neverland, as if you were still in the city, every slick, dark alley ending in a wall. Man, workdays can get kind of long. Who the hell wrote this? Self-indulgence 3. Time slurries conviction, the tall obligation, the stunted devotion of motherhood. Pain, which is not unlike the screwdriver jammed full force into newly stitched ligaments of a recent surgery, meets you at the door, calls you inadequate. Even if you were paid a man's wage, you wouldn't have his guts for this. The kids with mouths agape like baby birds and you in the mood for murder. Instead, macaroni and corn, a suet block hung from the closest branch, and you in your hiking pants, helmeted. Excruciating, this brand of maturity, this apocalyptic sort of wisdom. You've never been good at showing love, naive young know-it-all. You depart like a rag on the edge of storm, lifted, thrown, caught on a rock and plastered by rain until the leave of you is only theoretical. Now this next poem could probably be a self-indulgence poem, but it's about the Herald Journal. I have some poems about the Herald Journal that I wrote a long time ago, and one of them was, it quoted Detective Wes Land, who was talking about this guy who was naked, and he had peanut butter all over himself, and he was trying to kill himself. And Detective Wes Land said, It was all over the place. We even found it on the handle of the fridge, stuff like that. And then there was the one about the guy, the worker, who fell into the vat of boiling salsa at one of the factories. So the Herald Journal reports on really cool stuff. And so I wrote this poem when I was thinking about the cool stuff, but this doesn't have any cool stuff in it. It just talks about the little arms that come up from your mailbox and they hold the paper. And I have this great paper boy who every morning comes with his light on his forehead. He walks up on my porch and he puts the rolled newspaper right into those arms. And I open my door at 5 in the morning and I just go like this. And I have it. It is so neat. And that is life in Logan. That's why I live here. Harold. Paperboy, beacon light strapped to his forehead, places the rolled news into our porch-hung mailbox rack. Just right for Sunday through Saturday. Ceramic bell chime ringing with the weight of local happenings. Only a hint of global unrest, nothing to upset the harmony of small town legend and household gossip, nothing to disturb our fragile existence, ring our hollow chimes. By the way, I want to say that my friend Ann Schiffer gave me this cute little chime, and it's a purple ceramic bell, and it has a little green ceramic clapper, and I hung it on my mailbox arms so that when the paper boy came up, if the dogs didn't bark and tell me about him, I could hear the chimes ring. And now they bark and the chimes ring. This next poem is about the larger world, not just Logan, Utah. This is inspired by Ron Tanner's memoir, My Father's Secrets, in Creative Nonfiction, issue 55, spring 2015. If you haven't read Creative Nonfiction, it is a wonderful magazine. I have all issues of it. Helen Cannon introduced me to it back when it first came out, and it's been an amazing publication. And I think Jennifer Sliner should have a piece in every damn one, because she's so good. In the air. Outsides awash in solar waves, electromagnetics connecting our planet with hundreds of billions of others, their dust raining down on slanted sun through open slatted blinds. We hold our phones to catch the beams, our bodies a series of fleshy antennae absorbing transmission. No wonder the brain feels bristly, riddled with radio spikes, a sphere of them, Sagan says, 30 feet thick, expanding ever outward at the ancient speed of light. Hardwired to communicate, we itch to answer signals, another species hurling their news through outer reaches to perch on our aerials, tuned to our star-stunned channels. Gosh, I forgot to tell you that 2-poem warning. That was the second to the last poem. Here's the last poem. This is my other book, Ending Trees. And this one was inspired by the urban naturalist poetry walkabout. Please come to the Swenson soiree if you can. It's taking the place of a poetry walkabout. And I want to introduce you to Hillary Shugart, who has been responsible right there for creating all kinds of wonderful events, and she's the one who thought of this one, so thank you, Hillary. It's going to be great fun. And this poem is called Birch. Oh, this is the one that Brock wrote his poem about too. It was in the Rose Garden, and I wrote about a birch because there had been a storm before then, and everything was kind of scrubbed down by the wind and then washed and cleaned, and oh, it was a beautiful day. And it always happens like that on the poetry walkabouts. We always have a gorgeous day. Birch. What happened here? Your smooth veined leaves all shattered. Was it hail? When the wind came hard through the park, heady hot summer alight with flashes of fire coursing up from grass and stone. What happened when it forked? Its crooked lines crazing dark sky, the howl of it like metal, then pelting hail, those hard chunks slicing down like falling stars. Your leaves, a filigree on half-bare limbs, a scree of green around your